20th Sermon. On these words of our Lord, everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and everyone who humbles himself will be exalted. Luke 14:11. Listening time, 7 to 9 minutes. 1. If we consider things carefully, we will notice that there are 4 degrees for men. It is, first, the sovereign happiness of heaven after which we sigh, then the half happiness of earthly paradise from which we have fallen, thirdly the half misery of this world which causes our groans, and finally the culmination of the misery of hell which we rightly fear. To summarize my thought, I will say that these 4 degrees are life, the shadow of life, the shadow of death, and death. This is why, finding ourselves neither at the first nor at the last degree, we fear to descend, and we desire to ascend all the more anxiously as we see ourselves much closer to the last degree than to the first. Now, we are told, whoever exalts himself will be humbled. Luke 18:14. What does this kind of criss-cross between humiliation and exaltation mean? Is it not enough, Lord, to have humbled us in truth for you to ask that man also humble himself? But besides, there must also be a possibility of humbling oneself. But when one has fallen as low as one is, one no longer has the courage to try to rise again, and when one is humbled to this point, it is in vain that one can hope to rise again ever. For you have humbled us, Lord, in the place of affliction, and death has covered us with its shadow. Our life is even very close to hell. How could we descend further? What good can we hope for if we descend into corruption? For there is no lower than us than irreparable corruption. After the shadow of death, there remains only death itself, and after the abode of affliction, I see nothing but that of death. 2. The Lord said, whoever humbles himself will be exalted. If he had said, whoever has been humbled will be exalted, I would have rejoiced, for it is only too certain that I am humbled, and even very much so. But as he says, whoever humbles himself will be exalted, I find myself extremely embarrassed, not that I don't know what I prefer, but because I don't know what I should do. I desire to be exalted. It is even a necessity for me to do so, for I cannot find the permanent city here below, and it would not be good for me to stay where I am, even if it were allowed. On the other hand, to descend further is death. I have already reached the lowest possible point. I have nothing below me but the last degree, I mean hell. If I humble myself further, I can no longer hope to rise again, and yet if I do not humble myself, I must give up all hope of being exalted, for he who humbles himself will be exalted, and he alone will be. If I do it, I am dead. If I do not, I give up being exalted, and I am no less dead. But if we see a difficulty there, let us consider what precedes it. 3. It is said, whoever exalts himself will be humbled. Now, how can he who is humbled by truth itself exalt himself? I don't say where, but how can he exalt himself, since it is not the place that he lacks for that, but the strength? No, I say, what man lacks is not the place to exalt himself, but what is completely lacking is the power to do so. His will is great, but his will is null. Indeed, whether we want it or not, this cry, you have humbled me in your truth, is the cry of Adam, the cry of the entire human race. Now, whoever is humbled in truth is truly humbled, and can no longer have but a false exaltation. But a false exaltation is not an exaltation. Let us thank the Lord that he did not say, whoever exalts himself will be exalted. Indeed, what efforts would we not make in vain to exalt ourselves, if we believed that this is the case, since the very certainty that we cannot exalt ourselves in this way does not take away our desire to exalt ourselves. And perhaps it is because of this that the Lord said, whoever exalts himself will be humbled, speaking, not of the result, which is null, but of the intention which is foolish. 4. How many people do we see who are humbled without being humble, struck without feeling any pain, the object of the Lord's very care, but who do not find health in this care? They are all those who think they will find delights under thorns, who do not want to see the sins they commit, the slippery step on which they stumble, the darkness that blinds them, the nets in the midst of which they are born, the abode of affliction where they live, the body of death they drag with them, the heavy yoke they bear, the even heavier conscience they hide, and the very heavy sentence that awaits them. Such was the one to whom St. John, in his Apocalypse, is ordered to write in these terms, you say, I am rich, I am full of goods, and I need nothing, and you do not see that you are miserable, wretched, poor, blind and naked. Revelation chapter 3:17. Moreover, one should not be surprised that the exaltation of men is so vain and so false, since they themselves are only falsehood and vanity. Truth humbles them, vanity exalts them, They prefer darkness to light, they embrace the vanity that exalts them, and seek falsehood, while they reject the truth that humbles them, with all their desires, with all possible energy, through all kinds of dissimulation and frivolous efforts. 5. Have we succeeded in anything? Yes, for it seems to me that we have found how man can humble himself. It is, I will tell you, by clinging to the truth that humbles him, and uniting his efforts with his own with all the feelings of the most ardent piety, instead of closing his eyes to the light. So I will henceforth guard myself as much as possible against the hardness of heart. I will feel my pain and weep over it, lest, if my wounds were insensitive, they would also be incurable. I will therefore be like a man who sees his poverty under the Lord's angry rod, so that my soul does not share the fate of those of whom truth has said, I struck them and they did not even feel pain, Jeremiah 5:3, and elsewhere, I took care of Babylon, but she did not recover, Jeremiah 51:9. Without a doubt, it is a violent means of healing, humiliation, but pride is an even more violent evil. May God grant that it is so well cared for that it ends up yielding to the care of which it will have been the object. I will therefore agree with my enemy, I will take the side of my judge, I will finally let myself be pierced by the sting of the remedy so as not to be pierced twice. There, I believe, is the meaning of these words of the Lord. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. It is as if he had said, whoever rebels against the sting will be stung twice. On the contrary, he who willingly suffers its attacks will be spared, and will give reason for God's anger to calm down.